ॐ दक्षिणस्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशववामन कृष्णपाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। Now Vivekachudamani is very slowly approaching the culmination of the teaching of Vedanta. What is the central teaching of Vedanta? The central teaching is that the individual jiva is not separate from the total Ishvara. Atma, which is the real nature, the true nature, the Swarupam of this jiva, is not different from Brahman, which is the very Swarupam of this entire Jagat and Ishvara. That is the ultimate teaching of Vedanta. And this equation, where the Jiva and Ishvara are equated, where the Atma, that is the Swarupam of Jiva, and Brahman, the Swarupam of Ishvara, are equated, this particular teaching is called as Mahavakya. And ultimately, the peak of teaching of Vedanta is this Mahavakya Vichara. So, Mahavakya Vichara is the most important teaching, and that is that teaching which really gives rise to moksha. Understanding the Mahavakya Vichara in the form of I, this Atma, is nothing but that Brahman. There is no Bheda, no difference between me, the Atma, and Brahman. That is what the teacher expresses as Tat Tvam Asi. That Brahman, Tvam, you Atma, are not different from each other. You are the same. There was never any Bheda between you. There was never any difference between you. But because of this avidya, because of this ignorance, you considered yourself to be the body mind sense complex. You considered Ishvara or Brahman to be nothing but the manifest world. First of all, you don't even know what Atma is, what Brahman is, because I, the Jiva, in my ignorance, have taken my body mind sense complex to be the reality, as I explained in the previous verses, previous sessions. I am not even aware that there is something, the conscious principle behind this body mind sense complex, which is called as Atma. And there is a conscious principle, a consciousness principle behind this entire Jagat, which is called as Brahman or Ishvara. And what is the connection between me, this Atma, and that Brahman, which is the ultimate stuff with which this entire universe is made, this entire Jagat is made? Is there any difference between me and that? Am I different from that? I've never thought of that. I have always taken myself to be as limited as the body mind sense complex, and the Jagat to be as limited as the names and forms it shows. And for me, Ishvara or God is also limited, limited by a certain form, a certain shape. For me, my Ishta Devata becomes Ishvara, no harm, no problem. Initially, it should be like that. But I have to go beyond this understanding And I have to understand one thing, that what I call Ishvara is not merely the external form and appearance of that Ishvara in the form of a certain deity or a god, but that consciousness behind Ishvara is really what the reality is. This is something which I have to very clearly understand, and this understanding is taught by Vedanta. So, the ultimate central teaching of Vedanta is Mahavakya, and for that Mahavakya, to understand that Mahavakya, all these preparations are necessary. All these things that we went through in the last nearly 20 sessions, whatever we went through, all this preparation, all this understanding is necessary. It is like when you want to study a subject of a graduate class, you have to start from the primary school. The subject has to start from the primary school, high school, undergraduate. Then only I have to come to that graduate class teaching. And if I go further up, there is something further also to learn. But here it is said that Mahavakya Vichara, that is Tat Tvam Asi, that Brahman, you the Atma are. This is the final teaching. There is nothing beyond that. In the Laukika Vidya, we can go on knowing more and more and more and more. There is no end to that. But in Brahma Vidya, there is an end to it. What is that end? Moksha. What is moksha? Understanding that there has never been any difference or any bheda between me, the Jiva, and Ishvara. Between me, the Vyashti, this limited body, mind, sense complex. I am not this limited body, mind, sense complex. I am that Atma which is unlimited, which is Swayam Jyoti we saw in the 211th verse last time. See, why am I spending so much time in summarizing whatever we have studied in the last session? Because this is a continuity. I have to actually bring to my mind what I have studied in the last session. Then only I can connect to what is going to happen. And now the Mahavakya Vichara has started. Mahavakya Vichara involves what? The Tvam Pada and the Tat Pada. It involves the meaning of the word Tvam, the meaning of the word I, and the meaning of the word that. Tat means that, Tvam means you. When the teacher says that you are or you are that, when the teacher says, I have to understand what is the meaning of this Tvam that the teacher is trying to tell me, and what is the meaning of Tat that the teacher is trying to tell me. And that is what we have seen in the last session, the meaning of Tvam Padartha. The meaning of Tvam Padartha, I told in the last session, is nothing but what was described as Atma in the Atma Anatma Vichara or Viveka portion, whatever was described as the Atma. And in the last session, we saw that this Tvam Padartha or Atma, just like Bhagavad Gita described it in the second chapter from the 12th to the 25th verses, as to Ajoha, Nityaha, Shashvataha, Puranaha, Na Hanyate Hanyamane Sharire, and Na, Achhedyam, Addahyam, Akledyoham. All these things are the Swarupa Lakshanas of Atma. And this Swarupa Lakshana of Atma is nothing but the Swarupa Lakshana of the Tvam Padartha. And we saw in the last session, 211th verse onwards, we saw Yo Ayam Atma Swayam Jyotihi Panchakosha Vilakshanaha Avasthatraya Sakshi Nirvikaraha Niranjanaha Sadananda Swarupaha. That is something which I have to know as myself. And what this is, everything was talked about, where the even our student, the Shishya, expressed his doubt that you say that I am not the Mithya body mind sense complex, hey Guru. You have converted my body mind sense complex into Mithya. You have made me understand that my body mind sense complex is mithya. That doesn't matter. I have understood it. But after that, what? You say when you negate the body mind sense complex, whatever remains is that Atma. You say that. But I don't see that thing called as Atma. And what did the teacher say? He said, that consciousness which sees the Anatma Panchakoshas as Anatma, that consciousness which has negated the Panchakoshas as Anatma, that consciousness, that knower consciousness which has negated the Panchakoshas as Mithya, that very consciousness you are, and you have to understand this by a very, very sukshma buddhi. With that, in the last session, we completed the Tvampada Vichara. Now, in the next verses, in the next three, about 7 to 8 verses, Bhagwan Shankaracharya talks about Tat Pada Vichara. Tat in Sanskrit means that. That in English is the meaning of tat in Sanskrit. That and tat. So, what is this tat? In this Mahavakya, in this great equation called as Tat Pada Vichara and Tvam Pada Vichara, Tvam we saw is consciousness or Atma. What is this Tat Pada? What is this Brahman that is being talked about? So, Tat Pada can be called as Tat Pada itself. Tat, that. And that can be explained by another name called as Brahman. Brahman means that which is the very consciousness and existence underlying the entire universe. That which is the support of this entire universe. Just like this Atma is the very content of this whole body mind sense complex, just like this Atma, which is the support or the adhishtanam of this entire body mind sense complex, just like this Atma, which because of which the entire Anatma body mind sense complex is functioning, similarly, the entire Jagat is functioning because there is something, and that something is nothing but that consciousness and existence because of which the world exists, consciousness, the very consciousness principle because of which the whole world is functioning as a conscious unit. There are conscious beings, there are insentient objects also, but the whole world is also a dynamic world. It has sentient beings, insentient beings. What is the stuff that this Jagat is made of? Is this Jagat merely names and forms? Or there is something which is the content of this Jagat? Is there something which is supporting this Jagat? And that particular support, that which gives existence to this Jagat, that which gives consciousness to this Jagat is called as Brahman. It is also called as Ishvara. And in Bhagavad Gita, whenever Lord Krishna says I, he says Matsthani Sarva Bhutani. Okay? May Vigneya, Mam Vigneya, may you know me, may you come to me, may you worship me, may you see me as the entire, the manifestation of the entire universe. Gama Vishyacha Bhutani Dharayami Ahamojasa. I enter this Jagat and sustain the entire Jiva Rashis. In me, the entire Jiva Rashis are born, Ahani Ahani. And Pralaye, all the time, these Jiva Rashis, they again resolve in me. In every chapter, Bhagwan Krishna talks about in me the whole universe exists. I'm not affected by the universe, but in me the whole universe exists. So, what is the meaning of I or me when Krishna talks about I or me? It talks about Brahman, that very content of the entire universe. Just like the content of this body, mind, sense complex is Atma, the content of this entire Jagat is Ishvara or Brahman. Ishvara and Brahman and Tat, they are all the same Paryaya Padas for Brahman. Brahman with the name and form, this whole Jagat, Brahman is with this name and form. I have already spoken to you how Maya or Prakriti becomes or manifests into the world. In this work also, in Bhagavad Gita also, Bhagavan Krishna has explained how Maya, the Apara Prakriti, manifests itself into this entire universe. So, what is that? What is Tat Pada? This Tat Pada is nothing but that existence principle and the consciousness principle which sustains the entire universe. It is the stuff with which this entire universe is made. And what is that Tat Padartha? That is what is going to be told in the next 7 or 8 verses, out of which we'll say 3 or 4 verses, as many as possible. The meaning of the word Tat. What is the Tat Padartha? So here in the verse 223, 223rd verse in the main work, it says that ब्रह्माभिन्नत्वविज्ञानं भवमोक्षस्य कारणं येनाद्वितीयमानन्दं ब्रह्म सम्पद्यते बुधैः. So he says here, Brahma Abhinnatva Bhigvijnanam. What is the need to know this Brahman? I already know what I am. You have already told me, hey Guru, I am the Atma Swarupa. And you have already told me I am the Atma which is Swayam Jyoti. I am the Atma which is Nirvikari. I am the Atma which really, supports the entire body, mind, sense complex. All this you have already told me. What is the need for me to know this Brahman? Why should I know this Brahman? I should know this Brahman because if there is something which is the basis or the support which is called as Adhishtanam for this body mind sense complex, there must be a similar support or Adhishtanam for this totality also, for this entire Jagat also. And that is called as Tat Padartha and Brahma Abhinna Tattva Vijnanam, knowing the tattvam of this Brahman, Brahma Abhinna Tattvam, that Tattvam which is not different from Brahman, by knowing that non dual Brahman, that one and single Brahman. Ultimately, the Upanishad itself or Vivekachudamani itself says, you, the Atma, is that Brahman. But right now, the Tat Pada is just going to begin. The explanation of Tat Padartha is just beginning. So, Brahma Abhinnatva Vijnanam. Knowing this Brahman, Abhinna, Tattva, Brahma Abhinnatva Vijnanam. Abhinnatva Vijnanam. That means what? That which is one and the only or non dual Brahman, Brahma Abhinmatva Vijnanam, there is nothing other than that Brahman, knowing that there is only one thing, there is only one Adhishtanam of this entire universe, Brahma Abhinatvam Vijnanam. If that is known, what this Brahman is known, by understanding this, Bhava Mokshasya Karanam, the non separateness or seeing myself, which is going to come later, seeing myself as not separate, Brahma Abhinam. This Jagat is not different from Brahman. I am not different from Brahman. Iti Brahma Abhinatva Vijnanam. Once I know that, Bhava Mokshasya Karanam. That is the very cause for my release from this bondage and moksha. येन अद्वितीयम् आनंदम ब्रह्म संपद्यते बुधैः. Budhaihi means by those people who understand this Brahman, those people who understand this Tattvam called as Brahman, those people who understand the Abhinnatvam of this Brahman from the Jagat, those Vivekis or Mumukshus with the help of the Shastra and Guru understand the Abhinnatvam of this Brahman from the self, from myself, from Atma. Such are the people, yena, by this knowledge, Advitiyam Anandam Brahma Sampadyate. That means what? I attain that Brahman itself. What is the meaning of I attain Brahman? That means I attain moksha. What is the meaning of I attain moksha? I understand that I am not different from Brahman. I have been ever free. I have never been bound. I have never ever been bound. This understanding is called as moksha. And here he says, Advitiyam Anandam Brahma. Moksha is called as Ananda Swarupa because in moksha I experience my Swarupa Ananda. I experience that Swarupa Ananda which is nothing but myself. Therefore, moksha is called as Advitiya Ananda. Why it is called as Advitiya Ananda? Because it is not an experiential Ananda like in Anandamaya Kosha Ananda. We already saw in Anandamaya Kosha that there are degrees of Ananda, experiential Ananda. Moda, that means what? That happiness which I get when I see something which I like. Sorry, Priya, that is Priya Vritti. What is Priya? That happiness which I get by seeing something which I like, by seeing something. What is Moda? I get more happiness by possessing that thing which is an object of my liking. Pramoda is what? I enjoy that object of my liking. So, seeing, coming in contact with the object of my liking is the Priya, a type of Ananda. Higher than that Ananda is Moda. Higher than that is Pramoda. Therefore, Anandamaya Kosha's Ananda is in degrees. There is Taratamya. And this Ananda is an experiential Ananda. It is there when I come across the object of my liking. It is not there when I don't come across the object of my liking. What is the meaning of Advitiyam Anandam here? It means this is not the experiential Ananda, but the very Swarupa Ananda of Brahman. Of course, difficult to understand, I accept. We'll come in the next verse, we will understand what is the meaning of Ananda. Here he says that Brahman is Advitiya Ananda Swarupa. It is Swarupa Ananda. It is Ananda in its fullness, Ananda in its totality. There are no gradations of Ananda in it. The gradations of Ananda are only the reflected Ananda in the Anandamaya Kosha. So here, what does Bhagwan say, Bhagwan Shankaracharya? He says that this person attains that non-graded, that where there are no grades, that kind of a Purnatvam this person attains. And this Purnatvam or Ananda Swarupa Anandam is also called as Brahman, Brahma Sampadyate. Now, the Lakshanas of Tat Padartha are going to be talked about more in detail. I told you what is a Lakshana. A definition is called as Lakshana. And a Swarupa Lakshana is what? What is the inherent character? What is the inherent nature of a particular thing that is called as the Swarupa Lakshana? We saw the Swarupa Lakshana of Tvam Padartha in the last session. Now we are seeing the Swarupa Lakshanam of the Tat Padartha. And you will find that the Swarupa Lakshanam of Tvam Padartha is not different from Swarupa Lakshanam of Tat Padartha. Only the words may be different, the way it is described and explained may be different, but the Swarupa Lakshanam of Brahman is in no way different from the Swarupa Lakshanam of Tvam Padartha. So here in the next verse, in the 225th verse, the Swarupa Lakshanam of Tat Padartha or Brahman is talked about. And you'll find a great similarity between the Swarupa Lakshanam of Atma and Brahman. So here he says, Satyam Jnanamanantam Brahma Vishuddham Param Swatah Siddham Nityanandaikarasam Pratyagabhinnam Nirantaram Jayati. I think this meter which I chanted was not the right meter. We can chant it like the Bhashya. Satyam Jnanamanantam Brahma Vishuddham Param Swatah Siddham Nityanandaikarasam Pratyag Abhinnam Nirantaram Jayati. So this is the nature of Tat Padartha. So what does he say here? Let us take the second line, the last three words. This Brahman or Tat Padartha Pratyak Abhinnam. It is not different from me, the self. Pratyag means the nearest to me. That which is nearest to me, which is the innermost, is this consciousness, innermost to the five koshas with respect to the five koshas. It's not that the consciousness is only within this body. The consciousness is within, outside, antaha, bahihi, everywhere this consciousness is there, which we have already seen. We have seen it in also Bhagavad Gita. This consciousness, which is not only located inside this jiva, kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu, in all the kshetras, in all the bodies, in everything that I see around, the same consciousness, the same existence is there. So he says, this Brahman or Tat Padartha is Pratyag Abhinam. That means it is not separate from me, the Atma. That's why the Atma is called Pratyagatma. Pratyagatma means that which is the innermost, that which is the deepest, that which is the nearest, that which is nothing other than me. That is why this Atma is called as Pratyagatma. So, what is this Tatpada? Pratyag Atma Abhinam. Pratyag Abhinam. That means it is not separate from me at all. Pratyag Abhinam. Not separate from oneself. Nirantaram Jayati. Always shines. It is always available. Jayati actually means ultimate winner, the one who wins ultimately. And who is the ultimate winner? Atma and Brahman are the ultimate winners because that is all that is there. There is nothing other than Atma. There is nothing other than Brahman. Whatever is there is nothing but this consciousness, Atma, Brahman. So ultimately, what remains? Everything gets negated as mithya. The whole world is mithya. The body, mind, sense complex is mithya. What remains is that negator consciousness. That is why in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, we have that prakriya called as neti, neti, neti. Na iti, na iti. The world is not, the Brahman is not the world. Atma Brahman is not the body. Atma and Brahman is not the prana, not the mind, not the intellect, not the ahankara, not the Anandamaya. When I negate everything, when the whole world is negated as mithya, mind you, yesterday I told you, mithya means it is available, it is not absent, it is there, but it is an experiential reality. World is there, but it is not the ultimate reality. It is only an experiential reality. Like the magic is there, it is not the ultimate reality, it is experiential reality. The dream is there, it's not the ultimate reality, it is the experiential reality. Similarly, the world is there, the body is there, the mind is there, all the vyavaharas are going on. The vyavaharas are going on between two mithya things. Mithya body, mind, sense complex is doing vyavahara or transactions with the mithya jagat. Therefore, the entire jagat of names and forms is mithya. The only Satyam is Brahman. The entire body mind sense complex is mithya. The only Satyam is Atma. Let us take the example of ornaments. All the ornaments are nothing but names and forms. The only reality is the gold. All the waves, all the foam, all the bubbles are nothing but water. They are names and forms. A wave is an experiential reality. There is really no wave, there is only water. A bubble is an experiential reality. There is no real bubble, there is only water. Similarly, the entire world is nothing but names and forms, which is nothing but an experiential reality. What is there underneath these names and forms is the reality. And what is the absolute reality? Brahman or Atma is the absolute reality. Therefore, Nirantaram Jayati, that which is constantly there, that which is always there, that which never disappears like Mithya, that is why it is called as Nirantaram Jayati. That which lasts, that which is available, that which is constantly there. And what is its nature? He says, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. First line. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. These three are the Swarupa Lakshanas of this Brahman. Same thing when it comes to Atma, it is said Sat, Chit, Ananda Atma, which we already saw previously. So here Brahman is described as Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Taittiriya Upanishad describes this Brahman as Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. What is the meaning of Satyam? That which exists constantly in all periods of time. That is called as Sat, that which constantly exists. Trikale api tishtati iti Sat, that which never disappears. The world comes and goes, creations come and go, jivas come and go, body, mind, sense complexes come and go, galaxies come and go, everything comes and goes. That is why it is mithya. That which is constantly there is the easiness. Existence means ease. Whenever you describe anything, what do you say? the tree is, the plant is, the house is, the book is, he is, she is, it is. What is the meaning of that? This isness, this word is, describes that there is an existence behind all these things. This is called as the isness or satta. This isness, this existence is called as satyam. So when I say I am is the same as is. She is. I am. You are. The are, the is, and am suggest the existence of something. When I say am, I exist. When I say she is, she exists. When I say you are, you exist. When I say the book is, the book exists. So, what is the basis of this entire Jagat? It is Satyam or Satta. That Brahman which provides existence to this entire universe. Therefore, it is called as Satyam. Jnanam. What is the meaning of Jnanam? It is consciousness Swarupam. It is of the nature of awareness or consciousness. There should be an awareing principle. Otherwise, how will I know something exists? Isn't it? If I have to say, I exist, I should know that I am existing. So there is a knowing principle, which is called as consciousness. When I say you are, there is something which is aware of the are-ness in you. When I say the tree is, there is a knower in me which recognizes the existence in the tree. When I say the book is, there is a knower principle in me which recognizes the isness in the book. Do you follow what I'm saying? Therefore, wherever there is Satyam or Satta, there should be a consciousness also. They are not two different things or three different things. Wherever there is existence, there is consciousness. Wherever there is consciousness, there is existence. Therefore, it is Jnanam and Anantam. That means it is infinite. It is infinite existence, infinite consciousness. Anantam means Purnatvam, infinite, for which there is no limit, limitless, limitless consciousness, because consciousness is everywhere. It is not something which is only within me or within a jiva, everywhere. Existence is everywhere. In this consciousness and in this existence, all the jivas are existing. In this consciousness, in this existence, the whole world, the whole universe is existing. Therefore, Anantam. Infinite existence, infinite consciousness is the very Swarupa Lakshana of Brahman. Therefore, Brahman's nature, Swarupam, is explained as Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman, says the Taittiriya Upanishad. The one who knows the Swarupa Lakshana of this Brahman as Satyam Jnanam Anantam, existence, the knowingness or consciousness, and infiniteness, and sees that Brahman, Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam, as myself, such is a person who knows Brahman, what Brahman is. That's what the Taittiriya Upanishad says. That is what has been taken here. Tattva Bodha also talks about this. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma iti. These are the Swarupa Lakshanas of Brahman. And what is it? Vishuddham. Vishuddham means pure knowledge, consciousness Swarupam, absolutely pure, not tainted by anything, because it is the Paramarthika Satyam. Remember all the time, there are no two things. Atma and Brahman are not two different things. They are one and the same thing. With reference to the individual body, mind, sense complex, I call the same Satchitananda as Atma. With reference to the total, with reference to the world and Ishvara, the same Satchitananda is called as Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, and Brahma. Atma and Brahman are not two different things. It is one existence, one consciousness. With respect to the individual, it is called as Atma. With respect, with the reference to the totality, it is called as Brahman. Vishuddham, Vishuddham, that is absolutely pure, not tainted by the world it supports, not tainted by the body mind it supports. Param Swataha Siddham. Param, it is beyond Maya also. Maya is actually Mithya. Maya is a Vyavaharika Satyam, whereas this Brahman is something which is the support of Maya also. I talked about the Ardhanarishvara concept. Maya is nothing but the Shakti of this Brahman. And Brahman wields the power Maya and projects the entire universe. Therefore, Brahman is of a higher order of reality. Therefore, it is said Param. That's why we say Param Brahma, the highest, the most exalted. There is nothing beyond that. It is beyond anything else. It is higher. It is more exalted than the Jiva, Jagat, everything. This is called as the Param. Parat Param, it is called as. Aksharat Param, 15th chapter, is Akshara Purusha. Akshara Purusha, Aksharat Param is what? Uttama Purusha. So this Brahman is even higher than, or the one which supports Maya, or the material cause of this entire universe also. Swata Siddham. It is Swata Siddham. You don't have to prove it by any other pramana. Like Atma is Swayam Jyoti, Brahman is also Swata Siddham. The easiness that is there in everything is Swata Siddham. I don't have to look for easiness. The existence is there. When I see something, it is existing. When I feel something, it is the existence I'm feeling. When I'm experiencing something, it is the existence that I'm feeling. Therefore, it is Swata Siddham. Nitya Ananda Ekarasam. It is of the nature of Nitya Ananda, not Anitya Ananda like I explained in the previous verse, not the Anitya Ananda of, Anandamaya Kosha. This is what? Nitya, constant Ananda Swarupa, because it is the very Purnatvam itself. When you say Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Anantam also is sometimes called as Anandam, Satchit Ananda, because it is the Swarup Ananda. It means fullness, totality, infiniteness, completeness. When I'm infinite, I'm complete. There is nothing lacking. I'm not limited by anything. So I am that infinite. So Nitya Ananda Ekarasam, Ekarasam, which is not divided Ananda. It is not Anitya Ananda like my experiential Ananda. It is not the Ananda of Taratamya, broken Ananda of Anandamaya Kosha. No, it is what? It is Nitya Ekarasaha, continuous, one complete Ananda, unbroken Ananda, and it is Ekarasam. It is all the time remaining as the same, of the same degree. Ekarasam means remaining constant in the same degree, not changing or going. Infinite is infinite. There is no point, no chance of infinite becoming less or more. Infinite is infinite. Nothing can reduce infiniteness, nothing can increase infiniteness. When you say infinity, there is nothing more than infinity, there is nothing less than infinity. You cannot add anything to infinity. Infinity plus 1 is infinity. Infinity minus 1 is also infinity. Therefore, this is infinite. That means what? Ekarasam anandaha. Ekarasa anandaha means that which is without any degrees, which is a constant one. And what is it? Pratyak abhinnaha. This is something which is not not at all different from me. So this is the Swarupa Lakshanam of Brahman. Next, we go to the next verse where Brahman is explained from the point of view of the Jagat also. Is Brahman different from Jagat? Is Jagat different from Brahman? If so, if not, what is the relationship between Jagat and Brahman? Just like we explained the relationship between the Atma and the body, mind, sense complex, here Vivekachudamani or our scriptures are explaining the connection between Brahman and Jagat. So, what does he say in the 230th verse, 230 verse? सद्ब्रह्मकार्यं सकलं सदैव सन्मात्रमेतद् न ततोऽन्यदस्ति अस्तीति यो वक्ति न तस्य मोहः विनिर्गतो निद्रितवत् प्रजल्पः. So Sad Brahma Karyam Sakalam Sadaiva. This whole universe is the very Karyam, or the result, or the manifestation, or the effect of nothing but this Brahman. Brahman manifests. Visrajami aham idam samastam jagat. Bhagavad Gita says. Swamayam adhishtaya. Holding on to my Maya, using my Maya, controlling my Maya, Visrajami idam sarvam punah punah. Again and again and again, I project this whole world. Therefore, it is Brahman which is called as Jagat Karanam. Why Jagat Karanam? Using the Maya, this Brahman projects an entire world. How does it project an entire world? Without undergoing any change. That is why Brahman is called as the Vivarta Karanam. What is the Vivarta? Changeless. Without any change, Brahman projects the entire universe. That's why Brahman is called as Vivarta Karanam of this entire Jagat. Let us take an example to explain Vivarta Karanam. What is the meaning of Vivarta Karanam? I, the waker, project a dream. Correct? The waker, I go to sleep and I project a dream. Do I change the waker? No. During the dream, also, I, the waker, am peacefully, comfortably lying in the bed. After that dream, also, I am the same waker dying comfortably in the bed. When I dream a second dream on the same night, also I am the same waker. Am I changing according to what the dream is? I am not changing, correct? Therefore, I am the Vivarta Karanam of my dream. I, the waker, I am the Vivarta Karanam. I am not changing. In dream, I project a dream, but I am not changing. Magician is the Vivarta Karanam of his magic. He projects a magic, but the magician himself does not change. It is the Vivarta Karanam. He only is a projector. Similarly, Brahman, using Maya, projects the entire universe. And the projected universe does not change Brahman. It does not make any changes to Brahman at all. Two very good examples are this. Let us take another example. When I see a snake on the rope, Rajju Sarpam, does the Rajju change? It does not. A snake is projected on the rope, but the rope does not change. In the presence of that snake, also the rope does not change. When the snake goes away at the end, when I understand that it's the rope has not changed. What has happened? As a projection of snake on the rope, there is a projection of magic on the magician. There is a projection of dream in on the waker. Neither the waker changes, nor the magician changes, nor the rope changes. What is the meaning of this? That means ordinary people like us are capable of projecting and creating a world without getting affected by what we have projected. Then what about Brahman? Brahman is Param Brahma, infinite Brahma, with all the infinite possibilities and having Maya as its power. So, what can Brahman project? Just imagine. That is why it is an unimaginable world. The projection of this world is totally unimaginable because this is the world which is projected by Brahman of myriads of names and forms. But at the same time, Brahman remains as pure existence and consciousness. So, Sad Brahma Karyam Sakalam Idam. That is why it is said, Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma. Sarvam Ishwaramayam Jagat. Whatever is here, whatever is seen is Brahman only. It is a projection of Brahman. Behind the projection, there is that from where the projection has taken place. Behind the magic, the real person is there, the real existence is there of the magician. Behind the dream, the real existence of the waker is there. Similarly, behind the name and form Prapancha, if I have the subtle intellect, I can see that which has projected this entire universe. So, Sad Brahma Karyam Sakalam Sadaiva. So, this Sakalam Jagat is Sat Eva, Sadaiva. It is nothing but Brahman itself. Brahman in a manifest form is called as Jagat. Jagat is an unmanifest form is called as Brahman along with Maya. Brahman along with Maya in a manifest form is called as Jagat. The Jagat in an unmanifest potential form is called Brahman with Maya. Then Sanmatraye tad na tado anya asti. Tad anya na asti. There is nothing other than that. Sanmatra. There is pure existence. This Brahman is in the form of existence, that which lends existence to everything that exists in this Jagat. If I say the world is, the easiness of the world is given by this Brahman. So it lends existence to this entire creation. So what is it? Sanmatra. It is of the nature of Sat. Sat means what? Satyam. That existence which is there in all three periods of time, that it exists. The very easiness of the universe is Brahman. The very easiness of this body mind sense complex is Atma. The very easiness of this entire name and form Jagat is nothing but Brahman or Tat Padartha. Sanmatraye tat tadonyasti tad tataha anyadasti na. There is nothing other than that. Asti na astitiyo vakti tasya mohaha vinirgato nidritavat prajalpaha. A person who says that there is no Brahman, that means he does not exist himself. That means he is blabbering out of moha. Prajalpa means what? The person is blabbering, he's simply arguing. Like the Buddhists argue that there is nothing, there is emptiness, there is no world, there is nothing to be there. Vinirgato nidritavat, like a person babbles in sleep, and he argues. Prajalpaha, a person who says there is no Brahman is under great delusion. That is why in Taittiriya Upanishad, there is a verse which says, Asanneva sabhavati, asat iti chet, veda iti chet. That means what? A person who says that Brahman is not there, he himself is not existing. Correct? My existence is because of Brahman. How can I say Brahman does not exist? The entire world is existing because of Brahman. How can I say the Brahman does not exist? So, anybody who says out of delusion or ignorance that the world does not exist, it only means that this person is under great delusion or great confusion and ignorance. Then Bhagwan Shankaracharya in the next verse gives a Veda Pramana, a Vedanta Pramana, a proof that the Jagat is nothing but Brahman. He says, Brahmaivedam Vishwamityeva Vani Shruti Brute Atharvanishta Varishtha Tasmadyetad Brahma Matram Hi Vishwam Na Adhishtanad Bhinna Ataropitasya. So what does he say here? Brahmaiva idam vishwam iti atharvanishta vani shrauti brute varishta. First two lines. Atharva Veda Upanishad, called as Mundaka Upanishad, talks about this particular thing and says Brahmaiva idam sarvam Jagat. Okay? Brahma Paschat, Brahma Purastat, Brahma Uttaratah, Dakshinatah, Brahma Uttarena, Adhascha Urdhvam cha. So he says, Brahmaiva idam, Brahma, this entire Jagat is nothing but Brahman. In the front is Brahman, at the back is Brahman, on all the sides is Brahman, above and below is Brahman. That very easiness because of which all the directions are existing, that easiness alone because of which the whole world is existing, it is nothing but Brahmaiva idam sarvam jagat iti. This Mundaka Upanishad of Atharvana Shruti talks about it. So he says, Brahmaivedam sarvam Brahma Paschat, Brahma Purastat, like that, that particular verse goes. Brahmaiva idam vishwam, iti evam vani. Vani means words. These are the words, Vani. Of what? Shrauti. These words are spoken, Shrauti. Brute, talked about. Atharvanishta Varishta. Atharvana Veda Upanishad, called as Mundaka Upanishad, talks about this and says this entire universe is nothing but Brahman. Whatever is there is Brahman. Sarvam khalu idam Brahma. There is nothing other than Brahman. Anyad Brahmanah anyad na kinchidasti. Other than Brahman, there is nothing else. Whatever is there is Brahman. Then what do we see? so many different varieties. It's mere name and form. It is like seeing a bangle, a chain, a ring, earrings, nose ring, whatever you see various names and forms in the ornaments. But ultimately, all the ornaments are what? All the ornaments are nothing but gold only. There is nothing else. The whole ornament world is nothing but gold. The whole pot and clay, the whole world of objects of clay is nothing but clay. There may be 100 pots, 100 plates, 100 jugs, glasses, everything. But that whole world of clay vessels, what is the truth? The clay is the truth. All the others are names and forms. Similarly, all the ornaments are names and forms. There is nothing other than gold. The names and forms cannot be separated from the gold. The ornaments cannot be separated from the gold. The gold is the very existence of ornaments. The clay is the very existence of all the clay vessels. Similarly, Brahman is the very sustenance or the very existence of whole universe. Like the ornaments are mere names and forms, like pots and glasses and plates and cups of clay are mere names and forms. Similarly, all that we see in the Jagat is mere names and forms. The Jagat is nothing but Nama Rupa, manifestation, a projection of Brahman. But what is this Jagat in reality? It is nothing but this Brahman. So, Shruti Brute Atharvanishta Varishta Tasmad Yetat Brahma Matram Hi Vishwam. Again he says, Tasmad, therefore, since it is the words of the Shruti, there is nothing else other than Brahman. Tasmad, therefore, yetat Brahma matram hi Vishwam. This entire Vishwam is Brahmamayam. The whole world is nothing but this existence, consciousness, and infiniteness, Brahman. This whole world is nothing but Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. What is seen by us is the forms, but the stuff with which these forms are made is nothing but this Brahman. Just like what we see is the ornament, what we see are the various ornaments, but what gives existence to all these ornaments is gold. What we see is the magic, but what is giving existence to the magic is magician, though is not seen. Therefore, when we are seeing this whole Jagat, we are not seeing the existence. We are not aware of the existence because it's not seen like gold is seen. But it has to be understood intellectually that behind all these names and forms called as ornaments, the satyam of the ornaments, the satta of the ornaments is nothing but the gold. Similarly, the very satta or the existence of this entire universe is nothing but Brahman. Therefore, tasmad yetat brahma matram hi vishwam na adhishtanad bhinnata aropitasya. Anything which is projected cannot be separated from the projector. Magic cannot be separated from the magician. Ornament cannot be separated from the gold. Otherwise, I will say, you keep the ornament, give me the gold. Can you separate the ornament from the gold? No. The name and form which is projected upon the gold cannot be separated from the gold. Similarly, the name and form called as the Jagat or universe, which is projected on this Brahman, cannot be separated from Brahman. So he says, na adhishtanat bhinnata aropitasya. The projected cannot be separated from where it is projected. The movie cannot be separated from the screen. The ornaments cannot be separated from the gold. The magic cannot be separated from the magician. The dream cannot be separated from the waker. Similarly, exactly like this, the world cannot be separated from its very support. That is Brahman. Then what is Jagat? Is the Jagat real or is the Jagat unreal? The real Jagat is that what we see as real. Vivekachudamani and our scriptures say that the Jagat is not real. The names and forms are like the ornaments, Mithya. That is what is said in the next verse. The next verse is 211. 32nd verse, 232, 232. सत्यं यदि स्यात् जगते तदात्मनः अनन्तत्वहानिर्निगमा प्रमाणता असत्यवादित्वमपीशितु स्यात् नैतत्त्रयं साधुहितं महात्मनाम्. So what is the meaning of this? It says, is the Jagat real? The Jagat is not real. The names and forms are not real. Why? If you say Satyam Yadi Syat Jagataha, if you say that the Jagat is Satyam, then there'll be two things. There'll be Atma, one, Jagat, another one. But our scriptures very clearly say that there is only one, Sadeva Saumya Idamagra Asit. There was only one thing before, there is only one thing now, there is going to be only one thing later, and this whole universe is projected on that. Therefore, he says that Yadi Jagat Satyam Syad Atmanaha, then there will be a Hani. Atma will become limited. Atmanaha hanihi. Atma will become limited. Already Atma is described as what? Infinite. Anantam. Therefore, if the Jagat is a reality, Atma will become limited. Secondly, he says, Nigama apramanata. The pramana of the Upanishads, which talk about Brahman is manifesting as Satyam. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, the Shruti says. The Mithyatum of Jagat, which is proved by the Shruti, then that will go wrong. Then Asatyavaditvam api ishituhu syad. Bhagwan Krishna says, Matsthani sarva bhutani. He said, in me the whole universe is projected. Then we'll be proving Bhagwan Krishna wrong. Aham visrujami idam sarvam punaha punaha swamayam adhishtaya. He said, using my Maya, I project this whole world, a false world I project of names and forms. So Bhagwan's, Upadesha will turn out to be wrong. So can the Jagat be Satyam? No. If the Jagat is considered to be Satyam, there'll be three consequences. One, Atma will no longer be Anantam. Atma will be limited. Then it will be against the Shruti Pramana. Shruti says that the Jagat is Mithya. It will be against the Shruti Pramana. Third thing, Bhagwan Krishna, whatever he said in Bhagavad Gita, that I project this entire universe out of myself using Maya, that the Jagat is projected and Mithya, Bhagwan's words will be false. Because of three reasons, therefore, Naitatrayam Sadhuitam, these three are not really appreciated. Therefore, Jagat is Mithya. Brahman alone is Satyam, the entire Jagat is Mithya. What is Mithya? It is a projection. It is a manifestation. It is an experienced reality. But there is nothing other than Brahman. Just like all the ornaments are manifested in gold, they are experiential reality. The real stuff is gold. The magic is manifested in the magician, experiential reality, not real, mithya. Magician is the real. Just like the dream is mithya, it is a manifestation, it is projected on the waker. The dream is mithya and the waker is satyam. Similarly, this whole world is projected by Brahman using its power Maya and projected, and this projected world of names and forms is mithya. The only reality is that which has projected the world of various forms and names on itself. This is called as Brahman. So Brahman is the ultimate Satyam, Paramarthika Satyam. The Jagat of names and forms, including Maya, are Mithya. That is why Bhagwan Krishna talked about Kshara Purusha as the Jagat, Akshara Purusha as the Maya, and Uttama Purusha as Brahman. With this, we'll stop here. नन्दन्तु साधका सर्वे विनश्यन्तु विदूषकाः अवस्थाशाम्भवी मेस्तु प्रसन्नोऽस्तु गुरुस्तदा सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात् Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat.